The CEO was screaming at me in front of 12 people. 12. I counted them all. Him in his gray Armani suit, me in my blue uniform stained with bleach. He was saying I had just cost the company $4,700,000, that I was going to be sued. That security was already coming to escort me to the police station, and everyone staring, secretaries, managers, lawyers, all staring at the old janitor who had lost his mind. But I hadn't lost my mind. I had seen something nobody else saw. And if they didn't listen to me in the next 5 minutes, the real thief was going to escape. With the money, with everything. And I was going to jail instead of him. Let me go back 3 weeks and tell you how this started. Because this story doesn't begin with screaming. It begins with silence, with cleaning, with a wrong number on a spreadsheet that nobody paid attention to, except me. I work as a part-time janitor at a hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. Been doing it for 15 years. Part-time because I choose it that way. I work mornings, 5 a.m. to noon. Use the rest of my time for other things. Courses, volunteering, community work. That's how I like to live, always have. Some people think it's strange. Why not work full-time, make more money? But money isn't everything. Never has been for me. I like learning. I like helping. I like having time to do things that matter. Cleaning matters too. Don't get me wrong. When you clean, you make things pure, cleaner. There's dignity in that, real dignity. People don't always see it, but I do. It was March 2023. Beginning of the month. I was cleaning the 5th floor, administrative sector, where all the executives work. I always clean early morning before they arrive. I like it that way. Quiet, peaceful, nobody interrupting. Just me and my cart in the empty hallways. There's something about silence that helps me think. Helps me see things clearly. I was cleaning the CFO's office that morning. Robert Sterling, Chief Financial Officer. Nice guy. Always said good morning. Always asked how I was doing. Not like some of the others who looked right through me like I was furniture. I appreciated that about Robert. Respected him. That's why what I found confused me so much. His computer was on. Not unusual. He sometimes left it on overnight. 2 monitors. One facing his desk. One facing the side for when he did presentations for visitors. That second monitor was glowing, showing an Excel spreadsheet. I shouldn't have looked. Not my job to look at executive computers. My job is to clean, wipe surfaces, empty trash, vacuum carpet. But I looked, not on purpose. Screen was bright in the corner of my eye, and my brain does this thing. When I see numbers, I read them automatically. Can't turn it off. It's like breathing. Just happens. The spreadsheet showed departmental budgets, line by line. Cardiology department annual budget $2,300,000. Oncology department annual budget $3,800,000. Pediatrics department annual budget $1,900,000. All normal. All making sense. Until line 17. Clinical research department annual budget $4,700,000. And underneath in smaller font, description, laboratory equipment and cardiovascular research salaries. Nothing wrong, apparently. But there was something wrong, very wrong. Because I cleaned the clinical research department every Tuesday and Thursday. And I knew that department, knew every room, every piece of equipment, every person. They didn't have 4 million in equipment, not even close. They had 3 microscopes, 2 computers, 1 centrifuge. Basic equipment, maybe worth 200,000, 300 tops, and staff, 6 researchers. Average salary maybe 80,000 per year, times 6, 480,000. Plus equipment, maybe 700,000 total. Not 4,700,000. The difference? $4 million. $4 million going somewhere. But where? I stopped cleaning. Stood there staring at the screen, trying to understand. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was equipment I didn't know about. Maybe in some room I didn't clean. Maybe salaries were higher than I thought. But no. I cleaned all the rooms in that department. All of them. And I paid attention. Always have. People say I pay too much attention, that I notice things that don't matter. My mother used to say that when I was a kid. Samuel, stop asking questions. Samuel, nobody cares about those. Samuel, you think too much. But I can't stop. My brain works that way. I see patterns, notice inconsistencies, and I can't ignore them, even when I want to. I finished cleaning Robert's office, left, went to the next office. But I couldn't stop thinking about that number. 4,700,000. For a department that needed 700,000. Difference of 4 million? Where was that money? Why was the budget so wrong? Could it be an honest mistake? Maybe someone typed the wrong number. Maybe it was supposed to be 470,000, not 4,700,000. Typo. Happens. But if it was a mistake, someone would have noticed by now, right? CFO reviews these numbers. Auditors review them. Board reviews them. How did nobody see it? Unless nobody was paying attention, or unless someone didn't want them to see. I finished cleaning the 5th floor at 7. People starting to arrive, secretaries, managers, CEO arrived at 7:50. Saw him step out of the elevator. Navy blue suit, red tie, confident stride. He didn't look at me. To him, I was part of the furniture, invisible. Most executives are like that. They see the uniform, not the person. That's okay. Doesn't bother me. Actually, there's an advantage. When you're invisible, you see things, hear things. People talk freely around you because they assume you don't matter, or that you don't understand. I understand. More than they imagine. I went to the locker room, changed out of my dirty uniform into normal clothes. Jeans, light blue button-down shirt, sneakers. Stored my uniform in my locker, grabbed my lunchbox, went to the employee break room, small room, 6 tables, coffee machine, microwave, fridge, 3 people there, 2 nurses, 1 lab tech. I sat alone at a corner table, opened my lunchbox. Turkey sandwich, apple, bottle of water, simple food. I always eat the same thing. Turkey Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Chicken Tuesday, Thursday. Apple every day. Water, simple, predictable, works for me. While I ate, I kept thinking about that number, that spreadsheet. Couldn't get it out of my head. 4,700,000. 4 million difference. This wasn't a typo. A typo would be 4,070,000 or 470,000. But 4,700,000 for a small department? That was intentional. Had to be. Someone put that number there on purpose, but why? And who? Robert Sterling was the CFO. He made the budgets. He signed the reports. He sent them to the board. If there was a wrong number, he put it there. Or he knew about it and approved it. One of the two. But Robert always seemed honest, always been polite, always treated everyone well. Could it be him? Would he be capable? I finished eating, threw my trash away, washed my hands, went back to the locker room. Got my notebook. Small notebook. Black cover. I always carry one. Write things down. Dates. Observations. People think it's strange. Why do you write everything down, Sam? But I like it. Helps me remember. Helps me organize my thoughts. I opened the notebook. Wrote 15/2023. 5:45 a.m. CFO Office Robert Sterling. Budget spreadsheet. Clinical Research Department. Budget 4,700,000. Real need approximately 700,000. Investigate. But how? I was a janitor. Didn't have access to financial files. Didn't have access to computer systems. Didn't have authority to question the CFO about budgets. If I went to him and asked what would happen, probably he'd laugh. Or get irritated. Sam, this is none of your business. Sam, you don't understand finance. Sam, go back to your work. And maybe he'd be right. Maybe I didn't understand. Maybe there was a perfectly logical explanation and I just didn't know. But what if there wasn't? What if it was fraud? What if Robert was stealing $4 million from the hospital and I did nothing? Then I would be complicit. By omission? No, I had to do something. Had to investigate quietly. I started paying more attention in the following days when I cleaned the 5th floor. When I cleaned Robert's office, always early morning. Before he arrived, always looked at the computer. Usually it was off. But sometimes it was on in sleep mode, dark screen. I would move the mouse just a little bit. The screen would light up. Show what he was working on the day before. Sometimes email. Sometimes report. Sometimes spreadsheet. I would look quickly. Very quickly. 30 seconds. Didn't touch anything. Just looked. Memorized what I saw. Then wrote it down in my notebook. Numbers. Names. Dates. Everything. I discovered something interesting. The clinical research department budget wasn't the only strange one. There were more. Internal medicine department. Budget $3 million, but I cleaned there. Small department. 8 doctors. Salaries maybe $1.5 million total. Basic equipment, nothing expensive. $3 million was too much. Difference of $1.5 million approximately. Radiology department. Budget $5 million. But the MRI and CT machines were old, bought 10 years ago, already depreciated. Expensive maintenance, yes, but not $5 million per year. Difference of $2 million maybe. General surgery department. Budget $6 million. But again, numbers didn't match reality. Difference of $2.5 million. I added it all up in my notebook. $4 million from research department. $1.5 million from internal medicine. $2 million from radiology. $2.5 million from general surgery. Total $10 million. $10 million disappearing every year, for years, because this wasn't new. I'd been cleaning that hospital for 15 years, and Robert Sterling had been CFO for 8 years. If this was happening for 8 years times $10 million per year, that was $80 million. $80 million stolen. From the hospital. From patients, from employees, from everyone. I needed more information, needed concrete proof, but how to get it? I couldn't just accuse the CFO of stealing 80 without solid evidence. They'd laugh at me. Or worse, they'd fire me. They'd say I was crazy. Paranoid janitor with conspiracy theories. No, I needed proof. Something tangible. Something undeniable. I started paying attention to other things when I cleaned. When I heard conversations. When I saw documents in the trash. Yes, I looked in the trash. People throw away a lot. Important things. Confidential documents. They assume nobody will look. But I look, always have. Because you never know what you might find. It was in Robert's trash that I found something. 3 weeks after seeing that first spreadsheet. End of March. I was emptying his trash can. Early morning. Like always. Noticed crumpled paper at the bottom. White paper. Looked like a report. I picked it up. Uncrumpled it. Read it. It was a bank statement. Personal bank, not the hospital's. Robert Sterling's checking account and the balance. $2,300,000. $2 million in his personal checking account. A hospital CFO makes good money. Maybe $250,000 per year, $300,000 with bonuses, but $2 million in checking, besides investments, house, cars. That didn't make sense. Unless he had another source of income, a big source, a source of $10 million per year for 8 years. He wasn't saving it all, probably spending a lot. But even so, $2 million in checking, that was evidence, not definitive proof. But strong evidence. I photographed the statement. With my phone, quick, put it back in the trash. Left the office, kept cleaning. Hand shaking a little, heart racing, because now it was real. Not just theory, not just strange numbers on a spreadsheet. It was real money, in a real account, really stolen. And I had evidence, but what to do with it? Go to the police. With a photo of a statement I took from trash, they'd ask how I got it. I'd have to admit, I went through the CFO's trash. Was that legal? Probably not. Could be considered invasion of privacy. Could invalidate the evidence. Worse, could make me look suspicious. Obsessed janitor going through executive trash. No, police wasn't an option. Not yet. I decided to go to the board of directors. The hospital had a board. 7 members. Business people, retired doctors, important people from the community. They met once a month, first Tuesday of each month. Conference room on the 6th floor. I knew because I cleaned that room every first Wednesday. Day after the meeting. The next meeting would be in 7 days. First Tuesday of April, I would wait for the meeting to end. Would find the board president. Dr. Harrison Webb, retired doctor, 70 years old. Always polite to me. Always said, "Hello, Sam." I would show him. The notes, the photo of the statement would explain everything. He would understand. He would investigate. He would do the right thing. That week was long, very long. I kept working, cleaning, observing, writing notes, trying not to look nervous, trying not to look suspicious, but inside I was panicking because if Robert found out, I knew what would he do. He stole $80 million. Person who steals 80 million isn't a trustworthy person. Isn't a person who accepts being exposed. He could do something to protect himself, to silence me. I had to be careful, very careful. Tuesday came, April 7th, board meeting day. I worked my normal shift, 5 a.m. to noon. Then I stayed, didn't leave. Told my supervisor I had to finish cleaning an area. He didn't question it. I stayed at the hospital, waiting. Meeting started at 2 p.m., 6th floor conference room. I stayed in the hallway, sitting on a bench, pretending I was resting, waiting. Meeting lasted 3 hours. 5 p.m. the door opened. Board members coming out, talking, laughing, everything calm. Apparently nothing wrong discussed. Robert came out too, smiling, greeting everyone, shaking hands. He didn't know, not yet, but he would know soon. Dr. Harrison was the last to leave, alone, carrying a brown briefcase. I stood up, went to him. Dr. Harrison? He turned, looked at me. Sam, everything okay? Can I talk to you in private? It's urgent. He frowned. Urgent? About what? About hospital finances. About the CFO. I think there's something wrong. Very wrong. He looked at me for a long moment. Serious. Let's go to my old office. I can still use it when I come for a meeting. We walked down the hallway, entered a small room. Simple office desk. 2 chairs. He closed the door. Sat down. I sat too. He said, "Okay, Sam. I'm all ears." I started slowly. Explained how I saw the spreadsheet. How I noticed the strange numbers. How I investigated other departments. How I found more discrepancies. How I added it all up. 10 million per year. 8 years. 80 million total. He listened. Serious. Without interrupting. When I finished the budget part, he said, "This is serious, Sam. Very serious. But it could be accounting error. Could be miscategorization. Are you sure it's fraud?" That's when I showed him the photo of the statement. From my phone. Explained where I found it. Robert's trash. 2 million in checking. Way beyond what salary would justify. Dr. Harrison looked at the photo. For a long time. Face going pale. Finally he said, "You're right, Sam. This isn't normal. This is a lot of money. I need to investigate. Can you send me this photo? And your notes? I need everything." I sent everything. Email. Dr. Harrison thanked me. Said he would call an emergency board meeting. Would hire independent auditors. Would investigate thoroughly. Would get to the truth. And would protect me. Nobody would know I reported. Not yet. Not until they had concrete proof. Because if Robert found out before he could destroy evidence, could flee, could do worse. I understood. Thanked him. Left the office. Left the hospital. Went home. Relieved. But also nervous. Because now it was a matter of time. Truth would come out. Robert would be exposed. 80 million would be discovered. And all because I noticed a strange number on a spreadsheet. A number everyone ignored, except me. 2 weeks passed. Nothing happened. At least nothing visible. I kept working normally. Cleaning. Observing. Robert kept coming to work. Normally. Smiling. Greeting people. No sign he knew. No sign he was worried. Either he was a very good actor, or he really didn't know. I figured Dr. Harrison was investigating quietly. Auditors working behind the scenes, checking records, comparing numbers, looking for solid evidence would take time. I understood, had patience, or at least tried to have it. But then on a Thursday, April 21st, everything exploded. I was cleaning the third floor. 10 a.m., heard an alarm. Not fire alarm. Different alarm, louder, more urgent. And then announcement on the sound system. Attention, emergency meeting. All administrative staff must report to the auditorium immediately. This is mandatory. Repeat all administrative staff to the auditorium now. I stopped cleaning. Administrative staff. That included everyone. Was this about the investigation? Was this the moment? I went down to the auditorium. First floor, big room. Capacity for 300 people. Already filling up. Confused employees. Worried. Murmuring. What is this? Why emergency meeting? Did someone get fired? Is the hospital closing? Nobody knew. I stayed in the back, leaning against the wall, observing. Robert was there, in the front, sitting in the first row, next to other executives. He looked calm, maybe curious, but not worried. He still didn't know. That was clear. Dr. Harrison went up on stage with the other 6 board members, all serious, very serious. Dr. Harrison went to the microphone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming on such short notice. We have an important announcement to make. A difficult announcement. Over the past 2 weeks, the board has conducted an internal investigation into our finances, into our departmental budgets, and we discovered irregularities, serious irregularities. The room went silent, complete. Dr. Harrison continued. We discovered that over the past 8 years, approximately $80 million have been diverted from the hospital through inflated budgets, through phantom accounts, through systematic fraud, and we identified the person responsible. That's when he looked directly at Robert Sterling. Robert, can you please stand up? Robert went pale, white, like paper, but he stood up, shaking. Dr. Harrison continued. Robert Sterling, you are being accused of fund diversion, financial fraud, theft of $80 million over 8 years. Evidence has been collected. Independent auditors confirmed it. Police have been notified. An arrest warrant is being issued. Hospital security will escort you until authorities arrive. You are fired effective immediately. And you will be prosecuted criminally to the fullest extent of the law. 2 security guards went up on stage. Went to Robert, he didn't resist, didn't run, didn't yell. Just stood there, frozen, in shock. Security took him. Out of the auditorium. Room exploded in conversation. Everyone talking at once. I can't believe it. Robert, the CFO, 80 million? How did this happen? How did nobody notice? Dr. Harrison raised his hand, asking for silence. Room calmed down. He said, I know you are all shocked. We are too. But I want you to know. This money will be recovered, as much as possible. Robert had assets, properties, investments. Everything will be confiscated. He used to reimburse the hospital. And I want to thank the person who brought this to our attention. The person who noticed the irregularities. The person who had the courage to report. Without this person, Robert could have continued for more years, stealing even more. That's when he looked at me, right at me, in the back of the auditorium, and said, Sam Barboza, can you come up here, please? My heart stopped. Literally felt it stop. For a second, everyone turned, looking at me. Janitor in the back of the room. I didn't want to go, didn't want attention. But Dr. Harrison was waiting. I started walking down the aisle, feeling all eyes on me, going up on stage, legs shaking. Dr. Harrison put his hand on my shoulder. This is Sam Barboza. Has worked here as a janitor for 15 years. It was Sam who noticed the discrepancies in the budgets. It was Sam who investigated. It was Sam who brought evidence to the board. Without Sam, we would be losing $10 million per year, indefinitely. Sam saved this hospital, and we all owe him our gratitude. He started clapping, and everyone clapped. 300 people, standing, clapping, for me. for the janitor, for the old man who cleaned bathrooms. I didn't know what to do. Didn't know where to look. Just stood there, awkwardly waving, wanting to get down, wanting to leave, but Dr. Harrison wasn't done. He said, and therefore, on behalf of the board, I'm offering Sam Barboza the position of financial integrity consultant. Part-time, reviewing all our budgets and reports, ensuring this never happens again, with competitive salary and official recognition. Sam, do you accept? I looked at him, surprised. Consultant? Me? A janitor? Dr. Harrison smiled. You have an eye for details, Sam. You have integrity. You have courage. Quality is more important than a degree. Qualities we lacked. You deserve this. And we need you, so do you accept? I thought, for a moment. Official position. Better salary. Recognition. This was what most people want. Move up in their career. Status, but me. I looked at my janitor uniform. Dirty. Simple. Honest. And said, I appreciate the offer, Dr. Harrison, but I don't want to stop cleaning. I like cleaning. I like making things pure, physical cleaning, moral cleaning, structural cleaning. It's all the same to me. Can I help with budgets? Yes. Can I review numbers? Yes, but I want to keep being a janitor, part-time. Like I've always been, that's my way. That's who I am. The room went silent. Nobody expected that answer. Dr. Harrison looked at me, surprised, but then he smiled, bigger. He said, then we'll do it this way. You continue as janitor, part-time. Like always, and you had consulting. When we need you, when there are budgets to review, reports to check. You help, we pay extra. There, and everyone is happy. Does that work? I thought about it. That worked perfectly. I nodded. Works. Thank you. He shook my hand, and the room clapped again. Louder, longer. After the meeting, many people came to talk to me. People who had never spoken a word to me. Secretaries, nurses, doctors, saying thank you. Saying I was a hero. Saying I saved jobs because if the hospital had gone bankrupt from the fraud, everyone would have lost their jobs. I just nodded, said you're welcome. Said I just did the right thing. One woman nursing manager asked me, Sam, how did you notice? How did you see what professional auditors didn't see? And I said the truth. I pay attention to everything. Always have. Since I was a kid, people used to say it was a flaw, that I thought too much, that I asked too many questions, that I noticed things that didn't matter. But to me, it always mattered. Because when you pay attention, you see patterns, you see inconsistencies, you see truth that others miss. She looked at me with a strange expression, like curiosity mixed with respect, and said, you're special, Sam. Very special. I didn't know what to answer, so I just smiled and left. In the following days, Robert Sterling was arrested, formally, charged with fraud, embezzlement, monitoring. Investigation expanded. They discovered he had offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, Bahamas, Switzerland, hiding money for years, buying properties, yachts, luxury cars, all in the name of shell companies, all hidden from his wife, from his children, from everyone. He thought he was too smart to get caught, thought nobody would pay attention, but someone did. I did. And everything collapsed. The trial was 6 months later, October 2023. I had to testify, go to court, explain how I discovered it, show my notes, show the photo of the statement. The defense attorney tried to discredit me, said I invaded privacy, that I went through trash illegally, that I made accusations without qualification. But the prosecutor countered. Saw trash in a public area is public trash. That there was no expectation of privacy. That I had every right to report what I saw. And more importantly, that the evidence was solid. Auditors confirmed everything. Every number. Every discrepancy. Every penny stolen. Total. 82 million. Not 82. My estimate had been conservative. Robert was convicted. 15 years in prison. No possibility of parole. All assets confiscated. Sold. Money used to reimburse the hospital. They didn't recover everything. But they recovered 56 million? Better than nothing. Much better. Hospital was saved. Jobs were saved. Patients were protected, and all because I noticed this strange number on a spreadsheet. After the trial, my life went back to normal, more or less. I kept working as a janitor, part-time, 5 a.m. to noon, cleaning hallways, emptying trash cans, mopping floors, doing what I'd always done. But now, once a month, I went to board meetings, reviewed budgets, checked numbers, looked for inconsistency. They paid me extra, good extra, but I didn't do it for the money. I did it because it was right, because someone had to pay attention, and I was good at that. Always had been. People started treating me differently, with more respect, more attention. Executives who had never looked at me now said, "Good morning, Sam." Asked how I was. Some even stopped to chat about work, about life, about nothing, just chatting. I liked it, but it was also strange, because I was the same person, always had been. Only now they saw that a janitor isn't just a janitor, is a person, with a brain, with skills, with value. It took detecting 80 million in fraud for them to realize, but at least they realized. One day about 2 months after the trial, I was cleaning the 5th floor, like always. Early morning, a woman appeared. I didn't know her. She was new or a visitor. Formal clothing, gray blazer, black skirt, leather bag. She saw me, stopped, said, "Are you Sam Barboza?" I said yes. She smiled. "I'm Dr. Linda Martinez. I'm a psychologist, specialist in cognitive assessment. The hospital hired me to do some employee evaluations as part of a new wellness program, and your name was mentioned several times by several managers, saying you have unusual abilities. Observation, memory, attention to detail. They suggested I talk to you. If you're interested, I was confused. Cognitive assessment. For what? She explained. It's not a test, not a performance evaluation. It's just a conversation to understand how your brain works, what your strengths are, how you process information. Often people with specific abilities have unique cognitive patterns, and it can help us better support our employees. No pressure. Completely voluntary. Would you be willing? I thought about it. Had nothing to lose. And I was curious. Always been curious about how my brain works. Why I see things others don't see. Why I think differently. I said, "Okay, I can." When? She said, "How about now? I have a free hour. We can go to the conference room. Relaxed. No rush." I accepted. Put away my cleaning cart. Followed her to a small room. Round table. 4 chairs. She sat. I sat. She took out a laptop from her bag. And a notepad, pen. She started asking questions. Simple ones. About my childhood, my school, my work, my family. I answered, honestly. Told her I'd always been different, that I didn't fit in. That other boys played soccer, I preferred to be alone. Reading, watching ants, counting stars. That teacher said I was smart but strange, that I didn't look people in the eyes, that I asked inconvenient questions, that I took everything too literally. When a teacher said the test will be a piece of cake, I was confused. Piece of cake? How can a test be cake? It's paper. Paper's hard. Took me years to understand idioms, metaphors, sarcasm. Some I still don't understand. Dr. Martinez listened, took notes, asked more questions about routines. I told her I eat the same thing every day. Turkey Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Chicken Tuesday, Thursday. Apple every day. Water, same breakfast. Oatmeal with rice and beans and vegetable. Same time, same order. People think it's boring. But for me, it's comforting, predictable. When things are predictable, I can focus on other things, on noticing patterns, on solving problems, on seeing what others miss. She asked about work. I told her I clean the same route every day. Same hallways, same rooms, same order. 5 a.m. start with 5th floor executive offices, then 4th floor patient room, then 3rd floor labs. Same every day for 15 years. She asked, doesn't that get boring? I said no, never. Because even though the route is the same, everything else changes. People change. Conversations change. Numbers on screens change. Trash contents change. I see all of it, notice all of it. And that's interesting. Always interesting. She asked about the fraud. How I noticed, I explained about seeing the spreadsheet, about knowing the department, about recognizing the numbers didn't match reality. She asked the professional auditors missed it. They reviewed those same budgets. How did you see what they didn't? I thought about it. Then said I think it's because they were looking at numbers. I was looking at reality. They compared this year's budget to last year's budget, saw consistency, assumed it was correct. But I compared budget to actual department. Actual equipment, actual salaries, actual reality. And reality didn't match. That's the difference. They trusted the numbers. I trusted what I saw. Jared Martinez wrote a lot after that answer. Then she looked up, said, Sam, can I ask you something personal? I said, sure. She said, have you ever been evaluated for neurodevelopmental differences? I frowned. What does that mean? She said, well, your way of thinking, your attention to detail, your need for routines, your literal interpretation of language, your difficulty with social cues. These are all characteristics that suggest you might be on the autism spectrum. Have you ever been diagnosed? I sat back. Autism. I'd heard the word. Knew it meant something about brain differences, but nobody had ever mentioned it in relation to me. I said no. Never been diagnosed with anything. Just always been told I was strange, weird, too serious, too literal, too obsessed with details. She nodded, said, Sam, I'm not diagnosing you right now. That would require formal assessment. But based on our conversation, I'd say there's a strong possibility you have what we call high-functioning autism or autism spectrum disorder level 1. It's not a disease. It's not something wrong with you. It's just a different way your brain is wired. Different doesn't mean worse. Often, it means you have abilities others don't, like your pattern recognition, your memory, your attention to detail. These aren't flaws, Sam. They're strengths. I didn't know what to say autism. All those years thinking I was broken. Thinking something was wrong with me, and there was a word for it. An explanation, not a flaw, a difference. Dr. Martinez saw my face. Said, I know this might be a lot to process. Take your time. Think about it. If you want a formal evaluation, we can arrange that. No pressure. But Sam, I want you to know something. What you did here, detecting that fraud saving this hospital that happened because of how your brain works, not in spite of it. Your autism, if that's what it is exactly why you succeeded where others failed. Does that make sense? I nodded slowly. It did make sense. For the first time in my life, something made sense about me. About why I was different. Why I saw things others didn't. Why routines calmed me. Why social situations exhausted me. Why numbers made more sense than emotions. All of it. There was a reason. A real neurological reason. I wasn't broken, just different. She gave me some pamphlets. Information about autism in adults. About late diagnosis. About support resources. Said to read them when I was ready. That there was no rush. That whether I got formally diagnosed or not didn't change who I was. I thanked her. Took the pamphlets. Went back to work. But my mind was spinning. That night at home, I read everything she gave me. Every page. Every word. And the more I read, the more I recognized myself. Difficulty with eye contact. Check. Preference for routine and predictability. Check. Deep focus on specific. Check. Literal interpretation of language. Check. Sensory. Sensitivities. Check. I couldn't stand loud noises. Had always worn earplugs when vacuuming. Social exhaustion. Check. I preferred eating alone, not because I disliked people, but because social interaction drained my energy. One section talked about autistic strengths, pattern recognition, attention to detail, logical thinking, honesty and integrity, loyalty, reliability, deep expertise in areas of interest. All things people had said about me, but framed as deficits. You think too much, Sam. You care too much about little things, Sam. You don't understand people, Sam. But they weren't deficits. They were differences. And in the right situation, those differences were superpowers. I thought about Robert Sterling. How he stole $82 million. How dozens of auditors and accountants and board members here, how nobody caught it for 8 years because they all thought the same way, looked at numbers the same way, trusted the same systems, but I thought differently. Looked at reality, not just numbers, noticed what didn't fit, couldn't ignore inconsistencies even when I wanted to. My autistic brain, as Dr. Martinez called it, wouldn't let me, and that's what saved the hospital. I decided to get the formal evaluation. Took 2 months. Multiple appointments, tests, questionnaire, interviews, and in December 2023, Dr. Martinez gave me the official diagnosis: autism spectrum disorder level 1, also known as high-functioning autism, or what used to be called Asperger's. She explained the levels. Level 1 meant I could function independently, hold a job, live alone, but still had challenges with social communication and needed routine and predictability. When she told me, I felt something unexpected, relief, actual physical relief, like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Because for 68 years, I thought I was defective, thought something was fundamentally wrong with me, and now I knew I wasn't defective, just different. My brain worked differently, processed information differently, saw the world differently, and that was okay. More than okay. That was valuable. Dr. Martinez asked how I felt. I said honestly, I feel like my whole life just made sense for the first time. Every time a teacher yelled at me for asking too many questions. Every time kids laughed at me for not understanding their jokes. Every time I got fired from a job for not fitting in. Every time someone called me weird or strange or cold or robot. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just being autistic, and nobody knew, including me. She smiled, said that's a common reaction for people diagnosed later in life. There's often grief for the years lost, not understanding yourself, but also relief, finally having an explanation, finally knowing you're not alone. She told me there were support groups, online communities, resources, other autistic adults who'd been diagnosed late, who understood exactly what I was. I started reading more, joined online forums, read books by autistic authors, and I learned something important. The medical community used to see autism as a disorder to be fixed, a deficit, a tragedy. But the autistic community saw it differently, saw it as a natural variation in human neurology. Different, not less, as they said. Disabled not by autism itself, but by a world designed for neurotypical people. By expectations that everyone should make eye contact, should enjoy small talk, should be able to work in noisy open offices, should change routines easily. I started thinking about my job. Why I succeeded as a janitor when ID failed at other jobs. When I was younger, ID tried other work, retail, customer service, sales. I was terrible at all of them. Couldn't read customers. Couldn't make small talk. Couldn't understand unwritten social rules. Got fired from every job within months. Until I became a janitor, and suddenly I thrived. Why? Because janitorial work played to my strengths. Clear tasks, defined routines, minimal social interaction, work I could do independently, results I could see immediately. For 30 years, I thought I was settling. Taking a lesser job because I couldn't handle anything better. But I wasn't settling. I was thriving in a role perfectly suited to how my brain works. And the part-time schedule, I'd always felt guilty about it. Like I was lazy. Like I should want to work full-time, make more money. But I needed that time for the courses, the volunteering, the learning, and for rest. Because socializing exhausted me. Even minimal interaction with coworkers drained my energy. Working part-time meant I could recover, could spend time alone, recharge, then use my energy for things I cared about, learning, helping, growing. I thought about the fraud investigation, about how my autistic traits saved the hospital. My attention to detail noticed the wrong number. My memory remembered the exact budget needs of every department. My pattern recognition saw inconsistency. My rigid sense of right and wrong wouldn't let me ignore it. My logical thinking helped me gather evidence. My written notes kept everything organized. My persistence kept me investigating even when it would have been easier to ignore it. Every trait that people called a flaw, every characteristic that made me weird, every difference that made me not fit in, they all came together to catch a thief, and I started thinking about Robert, about why he got away with it for so long. He was charming, socially skilled, good at reading people, good at small talk, good at office politics, good at making people like him. All the things I'm terrible at. All the things neurotypical people excel at. And those skills let him lie. Let him manipulate. Let him steal because people trusted him, liked him, never suspected him. But they suspected me. The weird janitor. The strange old man who asked too many questions. If I deised him without proof, nobody would have believed me. Because I'm not charming. Not socially skilled. Don't know how to make people like me. But I didn't need them to like me. I needed them to see the truth. And truth doesn't require charm. Just evidence. Just facts. Just reality. Things my autistic brain is very good at seeing. I started talking about my diagnosis. Not loudly. Not making a big deal. But when people asked about the fraud investigation, I mentioned it. Mentioned that my autism helped me notice what others missed. And reactions surprised me. Most people were supportive. Curious, wanted to understand. A few were dismissive, said I didn't look autistic, said I couldn't be autistic because I could talk and hold a job. But those people didn't understand. Autism is a spectrum. Looks different in everyone. Some autistic people can't speak, need lifelong support. Others like me can live independently, have careers, but still struggle with things neurotypical people find easy. One person who really understood was Dr. Harrison. He called me to his office one day, said, "Sam, I heard about your diagnosis, and I want to say something. Everything you did for this hospital, noticing the fraud, investigating it, reporting it, that all happened because of how your brain works. Because you're autistic, and I want you to know that I see that now. See how valuable neurodivergent people are. How much we lose when we only hire and promote people who think the same way. We're changing our hiring practices, actively recruiting neurodivergent candidates, creating more flexible work arrangements because of you. Because you showed us what we were missing. That meant a lot to me. More than the money, more than the recognition, knowing that maybe other people like me would have easier paths, would be valued for their differences instead of punished for them, would find jobs that fit their strengths instead of forcing themselves into roles that drain them. I also started connecting with other autistic online at first, then in person. Support group that met monthly. Most of them younger than me, diagnosed as children or young adults. But a few late diagnosed like me. And talking to them felt like coming home, like finally finding my people. People who understood why I ate the same food every day. Why I needed advance notice before changes. Why I preferred texting to phone calls. Why I couldn't tell if someone was joking or serious. Why loud restaurants overwhelmed me. Why I could focus on numbers for hours, but small talk for 5 minutes exhausted me. One woman in the group was a software engineer. Told me her autism made her excellent at debugging. She could see patterns in code that neurotypical programmers could focus for hours without distraction, could think logically about complex systems. All autistic traits, all professionally valuable. Another was a librarian. Said her love of categorization and organization made her perfect for the job. Her attention to detail meant she noticed misshelved books immediately. Her dislike of noise meant she naturally maintained the quiet environment libraries needed. Her literal thinking meant she was excellent at helping patrons with specific research questions. A young man was a quality control inspector at a manufacturing plant. His ability to spot tiny defects. His intolerance for things being out of place. His adherence to procedures. All made him exceptional at his job. He caught more errors than any other inspector. Saved the company millions. All of us, autistic. All of us, successful. Not in spite of autism, because of it. We weren't overcoming our disability. We were leveraging our differences. Finding roles where our natural inclinations were assets, not liability. I started speaking at the hospital to new employees about neurodiversity, about different ways of thinking, about how the person you overlook might be the one who saves you. I told my story about the diagnosis, about understanding myself for the first time at 68. People listened, really listened. Some cried. Some came up afterward, said they suspected they might be autistic, asked where to get evaluated, thanked me for speaking. The hospital started what they called Neurodiversity Hiring Initiative, specifically recruiting autistic people, people with a DHD, people with dyslexia, people whose brains work differently, creating accommodations, quiet spaces, flexible schedules, written instructions instead of verbal. And the results were remarkable. The quality of work improved. Innovation increased. Problems got solved that had stumped people for years. Because different brains saw different solutions. I kept working, kept cleaning, kept consulting on budgets, but now with understanding, with self-acceptance, with pride even. I wasn't just a janitor. I was an autistic janitor. And my autism made me good at my job, made me notice things, made me care about details, made me honest and thorough and reliable. All good things, all valuable things. People sometimes ask me if I'm angry about living 68 years without knowing, without understanding, without support. And honestly, no, I'm not angry because I survived. I figured out coping mechanisms, found a job that worked for me, built a life that made sense. It was hard, lonely sometimes, confusing often, but I made it. And now I understand why certain things were hard, why I struggled where others didn't, and that understanding brings peace. What I am is grateful. Grateful to Dr. Martinez for recognizing what others missed. Grateful to Dr. Harrison for valuing my differences. Grateful to the hospital for giving me opportunity to contribute. Grateful to the autistic community for welcoming me, for teaching me, for showing me I wasn't alone. And grateful for my autistic brain. The same brain that made childhood difficult. That made me weird and strange and different. That same brain caught a thief, saved a hospital, protected jobs, recovered millions, made a difference. So when people say I'm inspiring, I correct them. I'm not inspiring. I'm just autistic. And autism isn't inspiration. It's neurology. It's reality. It's how my brain works. What is inspiring maybe is that organizations are finally starting to see value in different. That society is slowly learning that different isn't less. That the weird kid, the strange adult, the person who doesn't fit in, might be exactly the person you need. I still clean floors at the hospital, still arrive at 5 a.m., still follow the same route, still eat the same lunch, still take my notes in my little black notebook, still go home and spend time learning, volunteering, living my life my way. And now when people see me, they don't just see the old janitor. They see Sam Barboza, the man who saved the hospital, the man who proved that being different can be powerful, the man who showed that autism isn't a disorder to overcome. It's a difference to understand and value. My son calls sometimes. We talk about my diagnosis. He asks questions. Wonders if he might be autistic too. Some traits fit, some don't. I tell him it doesn't matter. Labels help with understanding, with finding community, with getting accommodations. But they don't define you. You're you whether diagnosed or not. Just be yourself. Use your strengths. Don't be ashamed of your differences. Find work that fits how your brain works. Build a life that makes sense to you, not to others, to you. This whole experience taught me something important. The world tells us there's a right way to be. Social, charming, flexible, emotionally, good at small talk, comfortable with change. And if you're not those things, you're defective, broken, less than. But that's not true. Those are just one way of being. A neurotypical way, and it's not better, just different. Autistic way is different too, and it's not worse, not better, just different. What matters isn't how you think. It's what you do with how you think. I think in patterns and systems and details and logic. So I found work where those skills matter, where they save money, catch thieves, protect people. That's good. That's valuable. That's worth something. Someone with a DAHD might think in rapid connections and creative leaps and hyperfocus and innovation. They should find work where those skills matter, where they invent things, solve complex problems, see possibilities others miss. That's good too. That's valuable too. Someone neurotypical might think in social dynamics and emotional nuance and flexibility and communication. They should find work where those skills matter, where they negotiate, build relationships, lead teams, navigate politics. That's good too. That's valuable too. All valuable, all needed, all contributing. The problem isn't neurodivergent people. The problem is a society that only values one way of thinking, that only rewards one type of brain, that forces everyone into the same mold and calls it normal. That's what needs to change. And slowly it is changing because of stories like mine, because of people speaking up, because of organizations willing to try something different. I get emails now from around the country, from autistic people, saying my story gave them hope, gave them pride, helped them accept themselves, helped them explain to family members, to employers, why they are the way they are, why different isn't bad, why their struggles make sense, why their strengths are real. I get emails from parents of autistic kids saying my story helped them see their children's future differently, see possibility instead of tragedy, see strengths instead of just challenges, see that their kids could grow up to be valued, to contribute, to matter. I get emails from employers asking how to recruit neurodivergent employees, how to accommodate them, how to help them thrive. And I share what I know, what worked for me. Flexible schedules, clear instructions, quiet spaces. Written communication, patience with social differences. Focus on skills, not personality. Judge results, not methods. And I tell them, you don't hire neurodivergent people to be nice, to be charitable, to be inclusive. You hire them because they're good, because they bring skills you need, because they see things others miss, because they make your organization better. Inclusion isn't charity. It's good business. The hospital learned that the hard way. They almost lost $82 million because everyone thought the same way, looked at the same information the same way, trusted the same assumptions, missed the same red flags. It took someone who thought completely differently, who saw patterns they didn't see, who couldn't ignore inconsistencies they ignored, who valued truth over social harmony, to catch it. That's the value of neurodiversity. Not inspiration, not charity. Value, real measurable value. And more organizations are starting to understand that, starting to seek it out, starting to create environments where different types of thinking can thrive. I hope my story helps autistic people see their value, helps employers see the benefits of neurodiversity, helps society move toward acceptance, toward understanding, toward seeing that normal is just average, and average isn't always best. Sometimes different is exactly what you need. So, yeah, I'm autistic, diagnosed at 68, after a lifetime of not knowing, not understanding, but surviving anyway, thriving even in my own way, and now understanding why, understanding what makes me me, understanding that my differences are differences, not defects. And I'm proud of that, proud to be autistic, proud of what my autistic brain accomplished, proud to represent my community, proud to show people that autism isn't tragedy, isn't something to fear, isn't something to fix. It's just another way of being human, different but equal, challenging but valuable, hard sometimes but worth it. If you're watching this and you're autistic, diagnosed or not, I want you to know you're not broken, you're not less, you're not wrong. You're just different, and different can be powerful, can be successful, can be valuable. Find what works for you. Build a life that fits your brain. Don't try to be neurotypical. Be yourself. Use your strengths. Accept your challenges. Ask for help when you need it, and never let anyone tell you you're not enough. If you're watching this and you know someone autistic, a child, a friend, a colleague, a family member, see their strengths, support their differences, create space for them to thrive. Don't force them to be normal. Help them be themselves, and watch what they accomplish when given the chance. And if you're watching this and you're just curious about autism, about neurodiversity, about how different brains work, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for learning. Thank you for being willing to understand. The world needs more understanding, more acceptance, more celebration of differences. My name is Sam Barboza. I'm 68 years old. I'm a part-time janitor at a hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm autistic, and I'm proud of all of those things. They all make me who I am. And who I am saved $82 million. Caught a thief, protected jobs. Made a difference. Not bad for a weird old janitor. Not bad at all. If you have a story about someone autistic making a difference, someone like me, someone you know, send it to the email in the description. My son helps me with this channel. We change names to protect privacy. But stories are real and important because the world needs to hear them. Needs to see that autism isn't what media shows. Isn't Rain Man or Sheldon Cooper or stereotypes. It's real people. Living real lives. Contributing. Mattering. Being valued. Comment below where you're from and tell me. Have you ever noticed something everyone else missed? Have you ever been called weird for paying attention to details? Have you ever felt different? Because you might be neurodivergent too, and that's okay. More than okay. That's valuable. Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring. Thanks for seeing that different isn't less. It's just different. And sometimes different is exactly what the world needs.